We have Kelly who asks, what's the best way to clean the inside of the windshield? That is a very good question. Uh,
Yes.
to answer that, we have to first start with kind of identifying what the problem is. So a lot of people, when they drive, especially in the nighttime with the glare of the lights, and especially when it's raining, so a bit of that fogginess, you'll notice kind of a haze on the inside part of your windshield. A lot of people will just take a regular glass cleaner. By the way, never use Windex. That contains ammonia and it can damage tinted film. So try to use automotive grade glass cleaners that always never have any ammonia in them. So people just take regular glass cleaners and they'll spray it on, they'll wipe it off.
What
Yep,
about vinegar? Can you use like vinegar water
yep,
on the
that's fine.
inside?
Yep, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay,
as long as
carry
you
on.
don't use ammonia.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they're going to use a regular glass cleaner. They'll do it, but that film haze doesn't get removed. So the thing is, glass cleaners are what we call finishers in the industry. So they'll clean to some extent, but they're mainly there to give back that gloss and even appearance. But before that, you have to degrease the surface. Why? Because the interior materials that you have, your plastics, your vinyl, your leathers, all that kind of stuff creates what we call off-gassing. So especially on newer cars, there's a lot of petroleum oil-based kind of stuff in there, and those kind of tend to evaporate out of those materials. And where do they get stuck on? The surfaces they can stick to, hence the windshield. So on that windshield, there's that grease and grime kind of film that accumulates over time. So it kind of looks transparent.
Oh
But
my
again, it
God, I
comes
thought
from
it
it.
was from heavy breathing and like
Yeah, no.
coffee that you burn
Yeah.
in the car.
It's the actual off-gassing from your
Wow.
interior materials. So the simple way to do it is very easy. You'll take a bucket, put a bit of warm water in there, and you're just going to add a bit of dishwashing liquid. I like Dawn, but whatever dishwashing liquid you have at home. So that's a good grease butter,
Dawn.
and it's still pretty mild. You mix that up. You're going to take a microfiber towel, dunk that in there in that soapy solution. You're going to apply that onto the windshield, rubbing left and right and up and down, so in crosshatch pattern.
Yeah. Okay. The
Go
S
again,
pattern.
Melissa.
The S pattern.
The S pattern, or we call it cross hatch and detailing,
Okay.
and make sure you just clean it properly and then dry it up. You can either use a squeegee or a clean and dry towel. And then for the final step, that's when you come in with your automotive grade glass cleaner and something like Stoner Invisible Glass. Everybody knows that one. It's available at Canadian Tire stores or at your auto parts stores. It's a very quality one. You can use it in your house as well for mirrors, chrome, whatever you want. And that's the second part. That's when you finish off with your glass cleaner, and then you're going to have a crystal clear glass surface. So you got to cut the grease on that interior film, and that's how you get the interior of your windshield. I have a simple tutorial on that. By the way, on the channel, if people type up how to clean the interior of your windshield pan deorganizer in the YouTube search bar, I show everything how to do it. I always try to keep it simple because I want people to enjoy detailing and taking care of their cars.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So Pan, I just learned, I did not know that. Thank you. Wow. Kelly, that was a great question.
And you can do that on all your glass surfaces, by the way, both inside and out of the vehicle. So that technique is good to degrease the surface. And for the exterior of your windshield, what happens is a lot of people notice a lot of specks. As the car ages and you do a lot of miles, there's a lot of that road debris, the stone chips and what have you not, that will erode the glass surface on the front. And those will create indentations inside the glass. Glass is porous when viewed through a microscope, and that can also accumulate grime and dirt in the pores of the glass, just like your paint. So you can clay glass. You can wash your vehicle and then use the clay bar. So that's kind of that putty appearance kind of thing to remove the embedded contamination on your windshield. Remove that, then your windshield is going to be glass smooth, and you should have less of those speck reflections when you're driving and the sunlight hits the windshield. You're at least kind of removing all that contamination from the pores. It's not obviously going to restore the glass that's missing, but at least it'll get your glass as squeaky clean as possible.
Wow. Oh my God. I feel that was a mic drop, Pan.
Let's try and have a few of those in the show.
I just like mind blown. Okay. So I'm going to start off with this one from Bubbles Bubbly. And here it goes. What do you do if you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to start? Small apartment, but can't get rid of everything. We just have to buy it again once we're going to buy a home within the next 9 to 12 months.
That's a great question. I'm going to answer that in two parts. So I want to talk about you can't get rid of everything because you fear you're going to have to buy it again in the future. That is what is called like a fear of the future or a fear of regret. So dealing with that has to be separate than dealing with the stuff itself. For me, what's helped a lot with that is kind of transitioning away from this idea of having a scarcity mindset to a mindset of abundance. And the best way for you to do that in your life is to look at past experiences where you've had some of those abundant moments, where you had more than you needed, or you we're in a blessed position, and use that as evidence for yourself to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't really need everything that I'm clinging to, because I don't really have that same fear for the future that I once had, or that regret that I'm going to need something that I once had. So that's a separate thing to deal with outside of the clutter as a whole. But when figuring out where to start, I have my own little process with that. And the best way that I think about this is you want to take a step back from all the clutter. You want to ignore everything that you're trying to get rid of. And you want to identify the best place for you to start. And the way you find the best place for you to start is you want to identify a project. And a project is all of the decluttering areas in your home. So you want to identify a decluttering project that sits in the overlap between low effort and high impact. And what I mean by that, low effort are those projects that you can knock out in a weekend, maybe a few hours. It's going to take you no time. You know, if you have a clear action plan, a goal for the space, you can put your playlist on in the background and just knock it out in an hour or two. That's low effort. High impact is the clutter in your life that is creating a noticeable interference or friction in your daily routine. So for me in the very beginning, the place that I started was my bedroom closet. Why? Because it was low effort. I knew that if I just sat down for a weekend, I think I spent an entire Sunday afternoon and I decluttered my entire closet. I'm just gonna sit here and get it done. But it was high impact because every single morning, and this was going back to when I was in high school, I would spend hours upon hours trying to figure out what to wear. Find something, try it on. I don't like that. Spend another few hours trying to find something to wear. There's been moments where I just said, forget it. I'll figure it out in the morning. And now I'm running late to school or running late to work because I'm stressed out about what to put on. So that was high impact for me. The reason you want to start in that overlap is because the low effort is going to help you build momentum quickly and build that decluttering confidence. You know what? I got this done. I feel like I can keep going. That's what that's going to do. But when it also has that overlap into high impact, then you're going to feel and experience the benefits of what Owning Less can do for you. Because now it's resolving that noticeable friction, that noticeable interference. So for me, when I decluttered my closet, that friction was, oh my God, it takes me forever to get ready in the morning. But when that friction was gone, you know, I have fewer clothes now. I walk in, I can grab anything off the shelf because everything matches everything.
Yeah.
And that eliminates that decision fatigue. It eliminates that friction, that overwhelm. But it was high effort because I was able to build my confidence. So, okay, now let's go through my track stuff. Now let's go through all of my decor. Now let's go through all of the storage stuff. I was able to build that confidence and that momentum because it was easy, but I was able to experience what the real benefits were of having fewer things.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. And I feel I really like the way you say low effort, high impact, and sort of, you know, it's almost like I'm imagining like a graph with like an X and a Y axis, and you're sort of plotting projects on there and kind of picking out which ones have the best rate of return for you. And that's maybe an exciting place to start. So here's one from Ebony A. How do you clean under a toilet seat? Mine has yellowed and I use a bleach spray and it seems to discolor it. Yellowing from bleach.
Shocker.
Yeah, bleach can do that. So in my experience, like plastic seats, wood seats, they can turn yellow, and that can be permanent. Depending on the material, you have to be careful with what you're using to clean. That's why, I mean, I think Becky and I have very similar approaches in that we like to keep our products really simple because you can get very effective cleaners using something that's very simple, that's also not going to cause harm to a finish. So, Ebony, I don't know what to tell you because I don't know if that's a problem that you can fix at this point. The good news is toilet seats are not that expensive. So if it really bugs you, you can replace it. And then what I would recommend is just stick with something that's simple. Keep away from the bleach. You know, we talked about this right off the top. You don't have to worry about using something like a bleach on a toilet seat. Like, you're going to be just fine without using bleach and sitting on the toilet. Like, nothing is going to happen. You'll be okay. And in the event that you need to use a disinfectant, there are disinfectant options available that won't discolor. And this just goes back to sort of that general principle of, you know the finishes and fixtures in your home, and then understand what products and tools can and can't be used so that you prolong their lives and how good they look. Yeah, Becky, like what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would replace it. I would also, if you're replacing it, I would look for one that it has like a lift off kind of a
like the snap off hinges.
pressure, so you can. And I only have it in my boys' bathroom, but luckily they're not watching. But you can actually just lift it, so you don't. It's not even you don't even have the snap off tops. It's like a one. It's like called the lift away seat, and so it lifts up, and then you can clean under that, and then so moving forward, you're kind of taking care of that issue with a little bit of an easier to clean toilet seat. Right. You could try hydrogen peroxide. That might help to lighten that up a little bit. You could make a paste with baking soda and hydrogen peroxide and leave it on there if you wanted to see if that kind of lifts it. I'm guessing it won't.
It's something you could try.
Okay, so here's a question from Jen 131. Are there any good products that cut through hard water buildup in glass showers on the first clean? I use a combo of 9% vinegar, Dawn Power Wash, and Lemmy Shine, but these don't always cut it. Ooh, I can't wait to hear your answer.
So I need to ask you this. How many times do you get asked about glass shower doors? Is it like hundreds in a month or a day? Like they are such a tricky thing to clean. It's
Do you
crazy.
have glass shower doors at home?
I do not, and I refuse to.
Whoa. They bother you that much, huh?
Well, I should refuse is probably too strong, but I like to keep things simple, and it kind of
shower curtain. Like you guys are a shower curtain family.
Yeah, we got shower curtains at the moment, which we like to buy the the washable, reusable ones, and those hold up really well.
God, your house must be immaculate.
I'll come back to that. That's actually a good question too, because I feel like that is like the only thing I'll say to that is they always say like the plumber's sink always leaks. And so it's like, is my house clean? Yes. But is it perfect all the time? No, because sometimes when I'm out cleaning for 10 hours in a day, the last thing I want to do is come clean my house. But I can do it. I can do it pretty quick and efficiently. But yeah, so for glass shower doors, it's a great question. The vinegar mix that you mentioned, I love that. That's a great DIY. It works really well. The two things I might add is I love Barkeeper's Friend More Spray. It's a spray bottle version of Barkeeper's Friend that doesn't have any of like the abrasives in it, like the powder and even the soft cleanser has.
It's called More? I've never seen that. Maybe it's a US thing.
It's kind of slowly rolled out. I found it at a store in the US called Menards, and Menards kind of always stocks some different, they're like a big box store, kind of like your Lowe's or a Home Depot, but they kind of always would stock some kind of secondary items from some of like the bigger brands, obviously like Barkeepers. Sure. Whereas, at Barkeepers, you can always find the powder and the soft cleanser. Yeah. But I did I cleaned a giant complex here that had, I think there was like 1,000 apartments that we would clean. We do all the turn cleaning there. And they kind of built out in the country a little bit, kind of away from the city. That's areas getting built up, but they had horrible, horrible hard water. And anything I threw at that just would not cut through it. And I was kind of at a point where I'm just like, okay, I don't know what to do. And was costing us so much time just scrubbing every square inch of these. Yeah. And so I found this product and immediately like worked like magic. And the other kind of thing I always look out for when it comes to any sort of like bathtub cleaners is they're really strong. And if you spray them on, sometimes they'll streak, mess with fiberglass and all that stuff. And this stuff is strong, but it's gentle where it's not going to cause like any sort of stripping or streaking. Does a really good job. Spray it on there. And then the other thing for really bad hard water buildup, I like to use grades 0.00040 steel wool. Yeah. That cuts through it really easy and quick as well. If you don't want to
use that with water?
Yeah, with the cleaner. So I'll spray the cleaner down. Okay. Just make sure, the surface is always lubricated with the cleaner. You don't ever want to use it dry. But it does a really good job. Other quick tip. We're talking about caveats before. I got to add one more.
Bring it.
The other thing too with steel wool, if you're going to clean with it, always use a new piece. What can happen with steel wool is it rusts really fast. And if there's any sort of rust buildup on the steel wool and you start scrubbing, that will scratch. So usually it's kind of one of those things where you don't want rust to be on there.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Okay. That's really good information. Wait, I need to get this Barkeeper's Friend more. Chad, can you make a note that we have to pick that up? I want to see if we can get it in Canada. That sounds amazing. And it's good for fiberglass too, you say?
Any tub surround anything. Yeah, it does awesome.
Brandon showing up with the tips. I love it.
I have a question here from Christina Barton. There's actually 2 questions. I'll take one and then you can take the next one. So what is the best stain remover overall? Oh my God. I feel like I have opinions, but you've tested them. So I'll give my opinion and then I'm going to hand it over to you. So the one that I really love is the Puracy natural stain remover. It's just the enzyme-based stain remover that I find is most effective. I will say there are times where I use just a little bit of Dawn or a little bit of liquid laundry detergent, and I've had really great results. But when there's the thumb. I guess I talk a lot with my thumb up. I should really think about that. I feel like a Canadian politician.
I didn't even notice.
Zach, just so you know, because Zach is in New York and I'm in Canada, when Canadian politicians talk, they don't point their fingers. They point with their thumb.
Oh, I noticed that.
It's so Canadian. Anyway, I got to stop. I'm just going to have to be like, it's like a Lego character. You know how they just have the thumb? I got to stop doing that. Okay. So the best stain remover to me is the Puracy product. But I've had really good results as well with like just Tide, Hygienic Clean, or a little bit of Dawn. But over to you, my friend. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the top ones, I really like Puracy, and I really like what they're doing with a lot of their sustainable packaging. They have something called the Clean Can. Yeah, which is really interesting. I actually saw a Reddit post the other day where it was like, is someone really selling a stain remover in a can? And the comments were really interesting. So it's all over the place. I like Puracy. Also on their packaging, they'll tell you what enzymes have in it and what those enzymes break down, which I think is amazing. Like, I learned a lot from their packaging. And I think that kind of gives the user a lot of sense of security and what this is actually for. But really any enzymatic stain remover is going to be really, really good. I like Tide Rescue, which is Tide's version of their stain remover. I'm just looking at them. Shout Advanced Action Gel is really solid. I like OxyClean Max Force.
Yeah, Max Force.
But really, you can just flip around to the other side, look at the ingredients, and just like start looking at what enzymes they have in it. If there's like 3 or 4, it's going to perform really well. And in my testing, like those 4 I listed, like those formulations don't really differ too much. And as long as you're using them correctly, just like my 2 cents on it, the longer those enzymatic stain treatments sit on a stain, the better it works. Like, I hang a bottle off my hamper. And if I know I got a tomato sauce stain here, I'll spray it, rub it in with my, on itself, put it in my hamper. And then like that stuff, because it's enzymes, just like the stuff in our stomach to help digest, takes time to work. So give it some time. If you can let it sit overnight before washing it, it's going to work way, way, way better. And work it in. That stuff needs to be working with a brush, and because it actually needs to physically interact with it. So just like spraying it on isn't really enough. Rub it in with the textile itself. Have a little brush that you beat it in with. Old toothbrush. Yeah.
Can I share something gross with you real quick and get your opinion? I know we're running out of time, but I have to say. Okay.
Give me the gross.
Yeah. So we moved into a new house and they obviously had a cat, and there was like a cat pee smell I couldn't get rid of in the front living room. There's carpet, and someday we'll replace the carpet, but it was coming from this one corner. So I used my little green machine, and it was really wet, but then I could really smell it. So I sprinkled it with baking soda on the wet. Now I know what you're thinking. That's crazy. My husband's like, you're just going to make a paste. And I was like, I don't know what else to do. So I sprinkled a bunch of baking soda on it. Wet, not a great idea. I came back. The baking soda was yellow. It had sucked from the carpet. So then I repeated, and then I let it dry, and then I vacuumed the baking soda, and I repeated this process, and it was less yellow. I did it a 3rd time. There was no more yellow. Did that baking soda suck the pee out of the damp carpet?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happened. So, I mean, it's great that you did that, because that is a great method that you can use. What happens when you wet a stain like that is you rebloom the odor. So it's kind of like you're awakening it again, right?
I could really smell it wetting it. Yes.
Yeah, it's a tough one to deal with, but that baking soda trick is really good. And you bring up a good point. You're not supposed to vacuum wet baking soda because it can really mess up the inner workings of your equipment. So exactly what you did, you're going to wet the surface, heavily sprinkle the baking soda, then you can vacuum it up. My recommendation is to use a wet dry vac to do this. That way you're not going to ruin your more expensive vacuum. And then repeat until you notice no more yellowing. But yeah, it's a job to get rid of that. I've been
But
there.
I was like, this may be the baking soda on wet. I'd never heard of this. And it like really sucked things out like in a
Yeah.
gross, disgusting way. I just had to share that because
Yeah.
you were,
Yeah.
you would, okay. Sorry.
I would
Elizabeth
appreciate
said-
it.
Yeah, you would.
Thank you.
Elizabeth said, what about the paper that her kids generate in arts and crafts form? They produce more and bring more paper home from school. Yes. And I have a really awesome tip for you because I had little ones that were always bringing not only artwork home, but like assignments and report cards, maybe school photos. What do you do with that? So here's the secret. Each family member has to have a memory bin, but that memory bin can be stored like somewhere in your home in like a storage or something, one big tote for each family member. But what I have is a memory catcher in my entranceway. It's a big basket. So as things come in, they all feel really special, right? I throw it in my memory catcher. And then once a year, I empty that memory catcher and I move the really special things into the memory bins once a year. And the nice thing is, I've had some time and I have so many things to choose from. I'm able to pick just the best of the best and cultivate a really beautiful collection for my kids because they do not want 5,000 handmade drawings when they're older, but I have that separation, that time so that everything doesn't feel special. So get yourself a memory catcher right in your entranceway. Everything goes into the memory catcher. And then once a year, you sort into the memory bins and you'll easily be able to get rid of 90% of it because you're just keeping the best of the best.